Welcome back to the Lowdown Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Also on the Mark Brown Show on YouTube. Got a very, very special guest on the show, and he goes by Jean-Jacques or JJT. He's a big-time media guy in the Dallas area. He contributes on 103.3 ESPN. He also contributes on The Undefeated, which is also part of ESPN. That's actually a big, huge accomplishment that he made recently. So, JJT, welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. But I do have to tell you, I'm no longer on ESPN Radio because ESPN in Dallas went to a national format last week. But you can still catch me on the Jam Session podcast, much like you. And you can find out them wherever you consume your podcast, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. It's all good. Stitcher. It's everywhere.
All right, that's what's up. Yeah, you heard the man, so definitely check it out. Definitely subscribe because you already know I'm going to subscribe right away. So definitely check out for that. But, man, so a huge turn of events. We had a lot of sports going on yesterday. You had the MLB playoffs going on. You had the NBA finals and obviously, the NFL, obviously regular season games. And speaking of, since you're in Dallas, I know you're an expert on the Dallas Cowboys. I know they defeated the New York Giants 37-34. I mean, it was a big win for them. But at the same time, I mean, it was also a tough loss losing Dak Prescott to a serious ankle injury. I mean, according to Adam Schefter, he did have surgery last night. And there's no telling how long he's going to be out. But chances are, when I'm thinking, he might be out the whole season depending on the severity of his ankle injury. It did look pretty bad. But, so when you look at that game, how impactful would you say Dak's injury is to the team?
Well, I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. However, whether you got him closer to – he's in the top 10, top 11, top 12. Whether you got him closer to 12, whether you got him closer to 5, he's one of the top players. So, if he's out for the rest of the year, which he is, this is a 4 to 6 month recovery, then it's obviously going to impact the team. I mean, he was on pace to throw for more than 6,000 yards. I mean, he was having a great year. So you're not going to replace that. But Andy Dalton is they signed him for a reason. They signed him so that the season wouldn't end if Dak got hurt. So we'll see if that was a good signing or a bad one.
Exactly. I mean, that's a tough break for him, but they were still able to win against the Giants. The Cowboys got the chance to get their second win of the season. I mean, lots of controversy going on with, between fans and the team. Because you look at Mike McCarthy as his first year as the head coach there, and people are already saying that he's not doing any better. But, I feel like usually when a coach comes in, when they're brand new, it usually takes time for them to adjust and make sure that the team, the season actually going well. Plus, obviously with COVID going around, you got positive tests, not with the Cowboys, luckily, but with other teams out there, and causing games to be postponed. It's already happened more than once. So, and plus, barely any fans in the stands too. So do you think that the NFL, especially with Dallas, do you think they'll be able to, withstand this entire virus outbreak that's going on with other teams? Do you think that the Dallas Cowboys are able to keep it under control since there's no positive test within that organization?
I mean, the virus is on its own, man. It's hard to nobody's controlling the virus. All you can do is ask for your players to be responsible when they're away from your facility. And even then, you can be responsible and you can still get it. So I would say right now, if you're one of the franchises that hadn't been touched by COVID, it's more luck than anything. Now, you got all your protocols in place, but the luck factor on this thing is extremely high. And thus far, they've been pretty vigilant about what they're supposed to do. But any moment, man, you can get somebody. All it takes is one. And then if you don't know about it, the rest of your team gets got. So I think most teams will have some experience with it before the end of the season.
Oh, most definitely. And plus, you look at the records, plus the NFC East, every single team in the NFC East so far has a losing record. And it seems like it's going to be, a juggle between the Eagles and the Cowboys. But the Eagles did lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. So now with the Cowboys winning and, Washington and New York not really just taking advantage of what they have. So it seems like the Cowboys could potentially earn that number one spot in the NFC East. Again, it's a big struggle this year with all four teams. And plus, there's a lot of key injuries going on with a lot of these players. Obviously, Dallas loses a top 5. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in my opinion. But like you said, they lose a top 5 quarterback, have to go with Andy Dalton. And you just look at the key injuries with the Eagles, Washington, they can't really have a definite quarterback keep switching around. And plus, obviously with the Giants too, key injuries in Sterling Shepard and Saquon Barkley. So it just seems like this entire league is just filled with injuries. And it just seems just it's just been a crazy year, a hectic year already. And with the NFL still going on, which is really good for the program. And, obviously there's been players that opted out too. So when you look at the NFC East, do you think the Cowboys could potentially take over as the number one spot? You know, unfortunately, they lost to the Eagles last year of taking that spot. So do you think they are able to maintain it? Because I know they have a tough schedule this year. And do you think they're able to make adjustments, especially with Dak being gone? Like, how do you think that can affect them when winning games and stuff like that? You think they're able to make quick adjustments, or is that too hard to tell?
I mean, I think they're definitely going to struggle. I mean, they lead the league in turnover ratio. They're -8. Their defense is raggedy. It's going to be hard to overcome that. The good thing for them is the division is bad. And so, to me, you know, this is going to be a year where maybe an 8-8 team, 7-9 gets to the playoffs from the NFC East because and it's going to come down to the two Philadelphia games because I don't think the Giants or Washington is any good. And so it comes down to those games. And if they play, you know, those teams are both about the same. The Eagles are 31st in the league in turnovers at -6. So, I mean, I'd give the Eagles the edge right now. Peterson is a better coach than McCarthy. Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Andy Dalton. And to me, if you got the better coach and you got the better quarterback, you should win.
I mean, that's definitely a give or take right there. And plus, I mean, they've also made a lot of adjustments within their receivers. Like you got Greg Ward Jr. who's stepping up like he did last year. Because, like, you know, you have the key injuries with those guys. You know, so when you look at Dallas, it's like you said, I mean, they both turned the ball over a bunch. So hopefully, you know, by then, because they don't play the Eagles till, you know, weeks later into the season, it just seems like the Cowboys can still find some way to, you know, make adjustments. It seems like, you know, especially going off yesterday, you know, you got a key injury in Dak in the second half. And once he was carted off, you know, everybody thought the Giants were going to come back. But obviously Dallas was still able to win 37-34. I know it was pretty close, but it was an ugly start. You know, when you go down 14-3 at the beginning, it's like, I don't even know if they're able to, you know, rally a comeback with their, you know, with Andy Dalton. I'm not saying that Andy Dalton's bad, but, like, you know, he hasn't had first team reps until now. And Dak was, you know, obviously the leader of the entire offense, the entire team, being a top 5 quarterback. So at this point, I feel like the Cowboys definitely need to make sure that they don't, you know, start off really bad like they did against the Giants. Obviously, they were able to come back. Like you said, the Giants are not as good, or Washington, but it'll be really difficult to do that with other teams because you saw what they did with the Browns last week, and then they weren't able to pull a comeback. The Browns just kept, you know, lighting it up offensively with Mayfield and OBJ, all those guys, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb before he got hurt, Kareem Hunt stood up, or he stepped up. So it just seems like it'll be really difficult for Dallas to make adjustments if they were to go down with the 1-2 punch from the Eagles.
So what's the question?
So the question is that, do you think that if they were to have a bad start like they did in the first half, do you think that would be over for them at this point? For anybody, not just the Eagles, but for any team they face with the backup quarterback?
I mean, it's hard to say. We haven't seen Andy play a full game, but I mean, he brought him back. I mean, it's not like he hadn't played before. I mean, he was a starter last year up until the last 5 or 6 weeks of the year. So, I mean, you know, anytime you're going to be consistently behind by 20 points, it's going to be hard to come back no matter who your quarterback is. So the key for them is to eliminate the turnovers because they've been their own worst enemy in the first quarter. And if they eliminate the turnovers, then you won't put your defense in such bad position. Like, you know, the feeling is the defense played bad yesterday. Well, the reality is they gave up 300 yards total. They gave up less than 100 yards rushing. They gave up 3.3 a carry or something like that. And they gave up 20 points. I mean, I can't really put the pick 6 on them and can't put it on them when you fumble at your own 17. So, you know, if they can avoid those types of turnovers, then, yeah, they got a chance to win.
Yeah, they still got a top 5 running back in Zeke. I mean, the offensive line still looks pretty good, and you got really good receivers. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb has definitely stepped up as a rookie, so I think that Andy Dalton could do a potentially good job. I mean, who knows? I feel like, I mean, like you said, he did start for the Bengals last season until the injuries came around. So it's like him going to Dallas, him stepping up. I mean, it's going to be I mean, he's back in his hometown too. I mean, I know that could be irrelevant, but not really because he's back at home. So he'll probably feel more comfortable playing closer to his family and everything like that. So I just think that Andy Dalton could, you know, lead this team to some more wins. I mean, he's done it before with the Bengals, and the Bengals were obviously a worse team than you know, him going to Dallas. So it's like, I think he can do a potentially good job just stepping up for Dak. And with him being out the season, I just feel like that's, again, a tough loss. But, like, the team, the camaraderie within the Cowboys organization just seems like it's, like, top tier with all the guys getting along. You know, you got good receiving core, and then the defense, you know, a bunch of young guys moving left and right. So when you look at the defense, when you talk about like getting scored on, it seems like they couldn't really stop the pass for most games this season, but still like there's plenty of season left. Do you think the defense could step up a little bit, especially going up against more tougher opponents? I know they struggled against Cleveland. They struggled against New York as well, struggled pretty much the entire season. What are some of the key adjustments you think the defense should make in order to slow down the tempo of these high-powered offenses they face?
I don't know if they can make that adjustment because it's about, they're playing a scheme, Mike Nolan's scheme that they don't believe in. It doesn't really fit what they do. And, the dumbest thing that they did was try to implement Mike Nolan's complicated, nuanced scheme during an offseason, which you had no practices. And he's not changing it. They don't like it, so they got no confidence in it. So, to me, it's going to be hard for them to succeed long-term. I mean, this year. Now, next year might be different because they have what you hope will be a normal offseason. But this year, it's going to be hard. They got a lot of injuries. Leighton Vander Esch, he should be back. That may help him out. They shady at cornerback. And, DeMarcus Lawrence has been battling through a sprained knee that would keep most guys off the field. So it's going to be hard in this particular scheme. Last year, they were an attacking scheme. This year, they're more of a two-gap scheme. It doesn't really fit their personnel. And so it's just going to be a struggle all year defensively.
That makes plenty of sense because it seems like there's been a lack of communication whenever there's been a bunch of blown coverages too. And it just seems that, you got to rely on the offense at that point, saying, just based off your point, saying that it'll be hard for them to make adjustments defensively. So on the offensive side, they'll definitely need to step it up, put some points on the board early and not have like, a quick struggle like they did with, going down 14-3 to New York. When you go against teams like Philly or anybody else that's more of a more formidable opponent, definitely should step up and try to mitigate the mistakes that they make early on. But like at the same time, it seems like this year as a whole, it seems like it's been a huge adjustment just in the NFL overall. Besides COVID, it seems like teams are scoring much easier, not for Dallas, but like just about anybody. It seems like it's easier for teams to score. And once they start scoring, it's like it's hard to slow down the tempo. I mean, you look at teams like, the Raiders were able to keep up with the Chiefs, and they were able to, obviously win. First time winning at Arrowhead in years. So you look at that, it just seems like most of these teams offensively, it's starting to look like college football when it comes to like getting these high scores, putting up some near basketball points. So what do you think of that? Do you think you have any reasons why the NFL this season looks completely different than previous seasons despite COVID?
It's probably because most teams didn't have a real training camp, and most teams didn't. I mean, they didn't have an off season where you had your OTAs and your mini camps, and so because of that, you didn't get the normal practice time in the off season. Football has always been a game of repetition, and without the repetition, you're seeing what you get now.
Exactly, and I know you're on a time crunch because you told me ahead of time. So I'll go ahead and ask you one more question. So last but not least, where do you see not only Dallas, but where do you see the NFL heading towards the season? Because like towards the end of the season, with all these COVID, protocols, teams getting postponed, like Denver and New England got postponed, the Tennessee game got postponed. So you look at that. Do you think the NFL is going to be able to, hold on to this entire season, able to play 16 to 17 regular games without anybody being completely shut down?
I mean, I don't know, man. That's a good question. I think the virus is the virus. The virus is not going anywhere. But I think they'll get everything in because the NFL has already let you know they're determined to play. That's their biggest thing, and so it's a season of adjustment. But I think somehow, as my mom would say, by hook or by crook, it'll get in. I mean, I already talking about maybe having a week 18 because you've had some cancellations. So I don't know what it'll look like, but I do know that at some point there'll be a Super Bowl and the champion will be announced.
Exactly. I mean, that's well said right there. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Like you said, we can't predict the future, but that was a good take. I'll definitely remember that throughout the season. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jean-Jacques, a huge Cowboys insider, definitely well-known name. Also got the opportunity with the Undefeated. I wish he could talk more about that, but I know he's on the time crunch. Again, just check him out. And also don't forget to check out his podcast. Be sure to shout it out one more time, just in case.
Jam Session Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, you can find it.
Yep, you heard the man. Definitely check it out, especially if you're a Cowboys fan. Even if you're a non-Cowboys fan, check it out. This guy has a lot of insight with the NFL. So once again, Jean-Jacques, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, my pleasure, man.